MN, its owners, and/or associates.
Lisa and Robin are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robin on the mic.
Welcome back to Lisa and Robin on the mic. You are listening on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on YouTube as well as WSMN.live. We are always up after the fact on Spotify if you want to give us a listen there and give us 5 stars and follow, because now we have 15,000 people on our page versus 9. But you have to do that, apparently. It's very, very important. It's free and it's very, very important. So please do that.
Yes.
We are starting our second hour with my wonderful client, who is also the former front man for Diecast, Colin Schleifer. Welcome.
Thank you.
We
left off them being naked and Alice Cooper walking in. I'm just saying.
Half naked. I think
I
it was
remember
a half
that.
naked.
Half naked.
Is it in the important half or the non-important half?
So is that the turning point? Is that where things started turning for you guys?
Somewhat, yeah. So, what happened is we got on this tour, and then we released this record called Day of Reckoning. And, in hindsight, signing to Now or Never Records was probably that was the end of me in the band without us knowing it. You never know what one decision is going to lead to something not working out or going a certain way. And, that's a much longer story probably, but
you have to tell.
We're dying.
I'm sure we could get there. But at the time we signed with this small label, they had, very good distribution in place, which was something, we didn't have. We had other offers from other labels that were maybe more well known, but they weren't as, I guess,
like committed to the process where like, we're going to sign you, but we're not going to give you everything.
Actually, so partly. So we had one really, really big label in this genre of music approach us, and he said, listen, I don't really like your music, but I know you're going to sell a lot of records. So, I'll sign you. And we were like, wow, thanks for the enthusiastic, support, so we passed on him, and he was like, very angry and told us, well, you guys are never going to mount to anything. And we're like, well, maybe.
Or maybe someone who likes us will sign us.
Yeah. All
who
I
likes
know
our
is
music.
Either way, you're not making any money off of us. So,
Right.
we had other label offers, but, in some cases we had to pay for half of the recording budget, or they were more independent minded, not really covering a lot of the expenses, the costs. And you know what? In hindsight, we should have done that, but we didn't know what we didn't know. So we, of course, went with the label that was offering us the most, which was Now or Never. And so what happened was, one thing I'll say for that guy that ran that label is he did have some industry connections. They weren't as strong as he led us to believe, but he had some. And so we started getting invited to things like the CMJ Music Fest in New York. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a college music journal. Like, we played it 3 years in a row. It's sort of like South by Southwest, but in New York. And so we got a lot of sort of attention from that. I think we found our entertainment attorney from one of those shows. And then eventually we got invited to play South by Southwest in Austin, which, if you're unfamiliar with that festival, it's this just huge festival where almost every venue in the city, every bar, opens itself up and has musical acts playing, and you buy a pass and you can like come and go from place to place like for the whole weekend and see as much music as you want. And it's like the streets are closed and it's like just a big party atmosphere.
That's cool.
It is very cool. And we didn't know what to expect. We got on this show, I don't even remember which. It was a bigger band, and I can't remember now who we opened for. It's escaping me. But anyway, a bigger metal band we opened for, and from that one show, we ended up getting a manager. And what else? We already had the entertainment team. We had the booking agency. We got a manager. Oh, I think we got a publishing deal set up from it. I mean, like all this stuff started happening, and because we were on South by Southwest, other booking agencies noticed us, and then we got the call from Slayer, and so Slayer is like probably my top 1, 2, or 3 bands like that I've ever listened to. I mean, I was listening. I had posters of them in my room.
Yeah.
I bought their cassettes in the '80s when I was growing up.
Replace them with CDs. Replace them. Right now they're on Spotify. Right.
Yeah. So it's so funny because they had this whole image back in the '80s, like they're this like satanic band, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's all imagery, but it was funny. They were like the band. I think it was who was it? Was it Tipper Gore, who had the PMRC back in the '80s, where they were trying to ban all these bands that had like questionable lyrics, and they were, of course, like almost all of them were metal bands, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
And they were like, if you can play
yeah.
it backwards, and you're like,
Right.
how do you play records
know.
backwards?
Right.
It just sounds like, ugh.
so
It doesn't sound like anything. There's no lyrics there.
what's funny about it is Slayer was right at the top of that list because they had song titles with very provocative names like Mandatory Suicide and like
Right.
Dead Skin Mask and South of Heaven, Raining Blood. Like these are like they're big songs, and but anyway, I loved this band, and so I think it was a couple days before Christmas we got the call from our record label that Slayer had asked us to be the opening act on this God Hates Us All tour, and I thought he was messing with me. I didn't actually believe him, and so I hung up on him, and because I was in the middle of doing family stuff for like Christmas or whatever, and he called back. He's like, "Don't hang up on me." I'm like, "You're serious about this?" And he goes, "Yes. One thing, there's a tour support aspect to this, where the way that works is a lot of bands, when you open those bigger tours, you have to buy on with like a tour support. So usually your record label pays for this. I think Slayer's management wanted something like $25,000, which back then was a lot of money. I mean, it's still a lot of money, but back then it was really a lot of money, especially for us who hadn't sold any records yet. So the record label agreed to front us the money for that, but it got added sort of the back end of recoupable costs. And
So like the first 25,000 of the sales is going to pay that
yeah.
bill, and then
So I'll remind me to talk about recoupable costs because it's a big thing in the industry. And the industry's changed so much since even when I was doing it back then. But anyway, we ended up getting on the tour, and it was us and this other band from Connecticut that I knew very, very well called Hatebreed, and they're still around, still big metal band. And we were the opener, Hatebreed was in the middle, and then it was Slayer. Hatebreed was much bigger than we were. And so it was just a whole other level. Like all of a sudden there was like tour buses involved and like,
groupies
huge,
and fans and
groupies happened before this,
Okay,
but a whole other level of that, all that stuff. We'll just put it that way, right? Our rider, all of a sudden, we could like actually ask for stuff, like real stuff, and we were playing huge venues and meeting some celebrities at shows now, and like surprisingly, some actors and they like Slayer, like they come out to Slayer shows, right? So it was just a level that we'd never been involved with before, and it was just like our eyes were like boom, like wow, look at all this, like I don't even know what to look at right now, there's so much cool stuff happening. And so it was like we went from playing anywhere from 300-400 people, and then Alice Cooper we were playing in front of a couple thousand, and Slayer, some of the shows we were like 10,000 plus, like just a totally different level of.
So what is the energy like? We talk about energy on the show all the time, but to be in the crowd of a concert is one set. What is it like to have that
coming back at you?
Well, it's funny because before we started that tour, I was terrified about this as the front man because Slayer's fans, and I as being one, know this all too well. They're notorious for booing the opening bands, like, or they'll chant Slayer through the entire opening band set. And so we were like terrified, like this is going to happen to us. It'd
be funny if you start chanting. If they're chanting Slayer, you just start chanting Slayer as well.
I know
that
would have That would maybe I should have cut it off at the
They
pass,
should come off. They should come on.
Yeah.
No, we're going to be here. We're fine.
So fortunately, that didn't happen to us, and I think the reason for that is this was a special tour. It was the first time in, I want to say 10, 15 years, something like that, where they actually had the original lineup of Slayer. So their original drummer, Dave Lombardo, had not been with the band for a very long time. He came back for this tour, and that had not happened since probably 1988, 89, and here we are. I think it was 2001 when this was happening. So it was very anticipated, and so I think people were so excited to see the original Slayer lineup that they didn't think to boo us, which was nice.
Right.
Very thoughtful of them, I thought. But so, and from an energy perspective, I mean, frankly, there's only 2 shows I've ever been nervous about playing ever. It was the first Diecast show, because I had never been a front man and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't know how I was going to move on stage. I didn't know what I was going to say between songs. I didn't know that I should have thought of this beforehand.
Right.
I'm on stage and I'm like, oh, I have to do something now. Like I just didn't know how the mechanics and the logistics of all that worked. And so, and you learn that along the way, but that, I was terrified of that. And then on the Slayer show, I just didn't know what to expect. I wasn't even nervous at the first Alice Cooper show for some reason. I don't know why. I should have been. Should have been terrified, but I wasn't. Maybe, and especially because my mom was there, and like I should have been just horribly terrified. But I
Maybe she was like a snuggly blanket, like when you're like young and you have your blanket, you're like, oh, my blankie's here.
if you knew my mom, she's not.
She's
snuggly.
not
She was
blankie.
not snuggly. So
Sorry, Mom.
no, that's all right. So I was very nervous before that show. I did not have any food or anything beforehand just to be safe. But when the lights went off and we have this intro back then where we had like this sort of sample that would play, and then we'd click into our first song. Everyone was, the crowd was really good. They were like into us. We were exactly the kind of stuff that they wanted to hear. And so I became comfortable after the first song. I was like, okay, this is awesome. And no one knew who we were yet. So no one was singing. Very few
lyrics
people were
back,
singing
yeah.
our lyrics
Sing,
back to
yeah.
us or any of that stuff. But I could do stuff like put my hand in the air or, give people sort of the devil horns, right?
Yeah.
And everybody would do it. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden I realized, wow, this is like a totally new feeling. I have like a lot of power up here. I could like tell people to do anything, and they'll, and we used to do stuff like where we'd have the crowd, one half of the crowd go to the right, one to the left, and we do this thing. Now it's called the Wall of Death, where we'd have, we'd count in, and the whole crowd would smash into each other, and now every band does this. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to say we were the first because we certainly weren't, but we were one of them,
Early
probably.
adopter.
Yeah, and so we would do stuff like that, and it's a different dynamic too, playing on a stage that big, because I was used to being sort of confined into my little part of the stage. Now I had all this real estate. I had to run back and forth. I was way more out of breath after the third song than I normally would be. I was in really good shape back then. Like, I'm kind of a overweight, middle-aged guy now, but like
Who hikes the 48? You're doing good. You're
yeah,
doing
well,
good.
my insides might be good. I just got, the outsides need some trimming. But so back then I was in pretty good shape, and cardiovascularly, I could jump around like for an hour with no problem. But on those big stages, I was struggling
Yeah.
because I didn't realize I had to tailor how I navigated the stage, because I would burn myself out within the first 3 songs. And so that was a learning experience. Playing in Denver, Colorado for the first time was a learning experience on
Oh,
that
yeah.
tour, because we were not acclimated to the elevation, and what the hell I'm 21 years old or something, like
You didn't
like
even know you had to acclimate to
Right.
elevation.
Yeah,
no one
so-
even said that before. There was no internet. We did not know these
You
things.
didn't know it was going to affect my lung capacity.
So, it's the Mile High City, but it's not like we're on the top of Mount Everest. So I was like not thinking about this
Right.
at all.
Right.
But when you're exerting yourself a lot, it really impacts you. And so by the 3rd song in, I turn around, I look at the rest of the guys, everyone is dying. We were all like, I turn around, I have the mic over here, I look to the bass player, I'm like, what is wrong with me? I can't breathe. And he's like, I don't know. Something, maybe we ate bad food. We just didn't know. Like, we were all dying, and we limped through that set. But then we realized, oh, this altitude is like a thing. But anyway, the energy once you're on stage is like, it's amazing when people are responding, and especially for the front person, because you have to connect directly with people as much as one can in a room with 10,000 people. There are ways to do it even without zoning in on one person. Like you can tell when you're the front man when you've got the crowd.
Yeah.
Versus when you've sort of lost the locker room and people are talking or not paying attention, like, and you have to figure out ways to keep their attention. Mm-hmm. And that's just something that you learn over time.
So one thing is really interesting. Now we have cell phones.
Yeah.
And a lot of bands will prevent you from taking your cell phones in. Because I think that probably has multiple things. Comedians do it all the time. We don't want you putting our stuff out of context. But also, so you can be present with us. Because the phone is like this side item that is stealing attention. And how do you really get into that? And the Nine Inch Nails did not take our phones. So we were able, there was one point you could just see everyone's phone's flashlight up, when it's
it's
all
the new
moving.
cigarette lighter.
It's the new
Yeah,
cigarette
yeah,
lighter.
yeah.
It's,
right.
yeah.
But I wondered how much, our band's changing where we also have this other element of like, are we all fully present while we're recording it? And, I wonder if that's, because one of the things I kept telling myself I would want to pull out the thing because I would want to record it. And I'm like, well, I have it recorded on my phone in Spotify,
Right.
but I was just trying to really cement it in. And then I kept saying, put my phone down, put my phone down, put my phone down.
So is it intimidating looking out and seeing 10,000 people?
I don't think you can be a front man if you're too
No,
intimidated, right?
It wasn't. So
Is
by
it
the
exciting?
time you get to the point where you're playing to a crowd that big, everything is like, it's like you've done it so many times, it's just mechanically programmed into your brain. So you just start your show, and if you're the front man, you're probably a little more present in it because you have to speak off the cuff and respond to things. But
Are you directing the songs as they're happening, or is that the drummer?
do
you agree to that in advance?
No, so this is what I was talking about with showmanship. A good drummer and a good frontman will have an unspoken rapport where they know when that's going to happen. Now, one thing that'll happen on the set list is if you've ever seen a set list, sometimes you'll see like it'll be like 2 or 3 song titles and then a line, and then 2 song titles and a line, and then 1 and a line. Those lines are breaks. So those are the points at which I'm talking, or there's feedback happening in the guitar players are maybe getting a guitar switched out with the tech, and so I'm filling up that dead space, getting the crowd riled up, doing whatever while the band is preparing for the next song. Because sometimes there's different songs that are tuned in different keys, so you need a different guitar. So you need a way to do that, and that's
It's almost like the administrative behind the scenes that
Yeah.
has to happen,
Yeah.
but in front of everyone.
Yes.
While you're keeping this energy and keeping
Yeah.
everyone up and alive.
And that's the thing that you learn after just doing it for a while is like, sometimes guitar player will break a string. I have to come up with a way to fill in that gap while he's getting a new guitar, and the tech changes the string, and like stuff like that you just learn over time. But especially between the drummer and the singer, there's an unspoken rapport that has to develop if you want your sets to come across as organic and flowing like naturally. So I don't think that we ever talked about it. It just kind of happened because we played thousands of shows together, and we just kind of would be able to anticipate where things are going. And that's how you're like locked in and really ready for prime time, is when you can do that without talking about it.
Right. When it's second nature. You are all on the same page. You're all doing the same thing. It's all, it's so well choreographed. That's where that word even comes from.
I would not have been able to verbalize this back then when it was happening, but now that I'm much older and I've had a chance to reflect on it for 20 years, I can realize, oh yeah, we were pretty good at that. Like that aspect of things, we had it down, well.
How often, so you wrote the music?
I did.
You wrote the lyrics?
So I wrote the
And
lyrics.
then did you
the
write
music.
the actual guitar, drums, or does everyone write their piece? How
So
does that work?
usually what would happen back then, and this is until we got our guitar player John joined later on, then John and I became much more writing partners. But up until John joined, it was me writing everything. And so what would happen is I would come in with a fully formed song to the practice space, and we would go through it, and the band the band members would be allowed to sort of put their own stamp on it and say, what if we move this part here? Or what if we did something different? Or I don't really like this part. Can we rewrite it? And so, it would be collaborative based off of the map that I had already kind of drawn, I guess.
And how do you have your feelings not get hurt? As a creative who's bringing this baby forward and everyone going, it's ugly. Move the arms over here.
I just wrote this beautiful.
Well, like I said, it's like a marriage, and there are plenty of arguments. Okay, so not everyone's going to get their way all the time. That's just how it is. You try to keep it professional. There is going to be times where you think, like, I'm sure there was a time or two when I had a guitar riff that I wrote, and I was like, this is like one of the best guitar riffs I've ever come up with. And then the band was like, that sucks. Oh, is that a bad word? I'm
No,
sorry.
you can say
Okay,
that.
all right. So, I'm sure that happened. In fact, one thing I could tell you, one of the reasons that I started thinking about leaving the band, in addition to, record label stuff and whatnot, is I wanted to take us in a slightly different direction. Where we added more melody to the lyrics. We had experimented with having some more, not radio friendly, but more hooky type of choruses in our songs. And I think that's one of the reasons that we ended up getting the attention to get on the Slayer tour, is because that brought us more attention. Now, this is going into something that I had alluded to before, but we had started to get interest from major labels at this point. Like Roadrunner Records, who has Slipknot and like Nickelback and like some of those other bands. They wanted to sign us. They had us into their offices twice. They came to our shows. We did a showcase where our management rented out the whiskey on the Sunset Strip, and we played at 11 o'clock in the morning, which, just so you're aware, I didn't get up before 1 o'clock in those days in the afternoon.
You're like, my voice isn't even on.
So, yeah.
I don't even know how, my voice doesn't work before.
Our management company rented out the whiskey, and we played for like 3 or 4 record labels, and we got interest from 2 or 3 of them, I think. But Now or Never Records had an option for another record from us. It was sort of a first right of refusal. Now, they had sold a bunch of records with us, but they hadn't been good about signing other bands. All the other bands they signed didn't sell anything. All the money they made from us, they flushed down the toilet by putting them into these other bands. And so they realized if they let us go, they're not making any money.
Yeah.
And so, now, I don't remember the exact figures here, but we had record labels maybe offering something like $250,000 to buy us out of this album. He would come back and say, well, for $1 million, I'll do it. And that was basically like a big, middle finger.
Yeah, like
to
I'm
these
not
record
selling
labels.
these guys aren't getting out of this contract.
Yeah, and so all of those labels sort of walked away and signed other bands. And so that was the beginning of the slide downward for us, because I had put together a record, or most of the songs for a record, which I thought were pretty good. And when I brought it to the band, they were, at the time, were of a mind where they're like, we want to write the heaviest record possible, so Now or Never can't make any money off it. And I'm like, no. Then when we're out of our contract, we won't have enough groundswell to get a good deal. This is like cutting our nose off to spite our face.
Yeah.
And I disagreed completely with this. I didn't want to abandon our heavy roots, but I also didn't want to make us less marketable when we came out the other side.
Right.
And also creatively, you're doing a certain thing. You change a little bit.
Exactly.
Right? If
Yeah.
you're, because now you're like, oh, we can do this, or we can do this, or we
So
should
How
play
long
with
were
this.
you in the how long was the contract for?
So it's
At that
not,
point.
it's not length of time, it's number of albums. So
Oh.
I think we were signed for 2 with a option for a 3rd at the time. And
And you guys had one out at that point, or 2 out.
No, we had 2 out, because what happened is they were able to reissue our first LP called Undo the Wicked, and that counted as our second release.
Oh.
So, and for them, it was great because it didn't cost them any recording costs or anything, and so it was a real win financially for them to do that. But they had the option for the 3rd, and they decided to exercise it.
And so did you put one together, and like you couldn't make a contract with these other recording? Like, hey, once we release this one with them,
Nah,
we'll sign
they
with
don't
you?
do that because the reason they don't do that is because you never know. Right now, we had a lot of buzz and we were sort of on our way up. By that point, let's just say our next record was a complete dud. They don't want to be locked into marketing us if we don't have the same level of buzz happening.
Yeah.
So, now could they have put something in the contract to get out of it? Probably, but they just don't do that.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think everyone is looking for talent today. Everyone's looking for the next Britney Spears, Slipknot. That like they're looking for the next, like, what is the next? Who are we breaking? There's also a piece of it about the breaking too, I think.
Metal is a little different though. Metal,
is it?
Yeah, because metal bands don't. Back in the '80s, they hit big, like that, but they don't do it now. Now it's a slow
like
build.
Okay, because they almost don't have their own channel.
They don't. It's become much more difficult for this genre of music to become financially, viable.
Right, because like for AAF, for example, in Boston at that time, if you get on AAF, you have to be saleable in a window. Not every Marilyn Manson song was on.
Right.
Not every Rob Rob Zombie had 2 songs. Well, they have a whole album, but they will never play anything but 2 songs on that radio. What did you guys? How do you get on the radio? How do you
So
get
we did
on
get
AAF?
on the radio. We were on AF. In fact, we played live on AF once or twice.
So then I definitely heard that on the way to or from work.
We
work.
We played in WBCN's Rock and Roll Rumble. We were in that one year. I think we made it to the 3rd round, maybe. So we did get some local radio play. And we just weren't marketable. Like Godsmack's a perfect example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Godsmack, their entire career was made from getting on to, I think it was AAF.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if it was BCN or AAF. I want to say AAF. They, got to tip my hat to them. I was never a big Godsmack fan. I don't really like their music very much, but Sully is a very smart guy. He put together this whole demo. He was a drummer, made himself the singer, and then got this demo to be played on AAF, and all of a sudden people were requesting it. And then it just was, it became like a local hit, and that got them interest from big labels. Mm-hmm. And then they were off to the races, so.
Because and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but once something gets on the radio, it becomes almost like this is accepted.
I think there's some truth to that. I think if it's getting real, like there's a difference between you get played like once a day versus
pay to play versus
like hourly. Like you're getting like real rotations in there. If you're, it's almost like going viral. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to go viral on the radio for it to make a difference. But now it's different. Now I think you have to go viral online with streaming. It's totally a different industry now. There was no streaming back then.
Yeah.
Napster wasn't even around yet at that point.
We couldn't steal all your music yet, right?
Exactly. So
go with our little handheld recorder.
Well, in some ways it's easier now because you can put out your own content, but also the market is way more saturated. But it's also harder now to make a living because you get paid. I mean, I'll just give you an example, and this is apropos because we're on the radio. I think back then we would get something like 2 cents per spin for a radio, but out of those 2 cents, our management company had to take their cut, and then we had to split it between 5 band members. So we're not getting a cent per spin. We're getting like 0.15 cents per band member, per spin.
Yeah, you need to be played 7 times to get 1 cent.
Yeah. So you're not making money off.
You're not making money off the radio.
It seems like you think about like being in a band. You think about rich and wealthy, and like they're making a lot of money, and it's like no, actually, it's like it's a struggle. It's harder than
you're doing it because you love it.
Yes.
You're doing this is because it's a
but
creative
just
outlet.
learning,
You
but
love
like
it.
thinking you sign with a company that they're going to take care of all of that stuff now. Your management, who pays for your manager,
like
the lawyer, all of this.
I feel like we've learned about this because of rap and all of the rap players getting screwed out of the record label. That's how we learned that the record label, even though you need the record label as the band, they're also half screwing you.
Well, remember I mentioned recoupable
Yes.
costs.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
So this is a perfect segue to go into this because record labels, they what they'll do is they'll build in these what are called recoupable costs for marketing purposes, and they purposely keep the band in the red as long as possible because it keeps the band touring and supporting, because being on the road and touring is the only outlet that a band can actually make money on, because they control more of the incoming flow than anything else.
Yeah, they're just bleeding it out on expenses on the other side.
Exactly. So what happens is record labels, they will constantly come up with ways to keep spending money to market you, because the recoupable costs, the way it works is you have to pay back or get to zero, and then you make money on your album sales. So unless you're selling 4 or 5 million records, you're never making $1 on your music itself. You're making money by going on tour, and maybe you're making money streaming, but streaming you get paid even less than you do on radio. So you've got to get millions and millions of streams to make any money, really. That's why a lot of bands now do like YouTube content, and like they'll put out actual videos like on tour, like of themselves walking around so they can get clicks. None of that was a thing back when we were doing it. You know, it was much more traditional. Also, nowadays, venues have gotten into this. Venues will now count your merchandise on the way in, and they will charge you anywhere from 15 to 25% of your merch sales.
Wow.
That didn't exist back then. So now you've got bands like illegally selling their merch in the parking lot sometimes to avoid the
you taking a
venue.
piece of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then some record labels got smart, and they said, you know what? We're going to start our own merch company, and when we sign bands, we're going to require them to use our merch company at whatever deal we decide to offer them. And if they don't want to get signed, fine. Then
Wow,
we'll
it's
sign
like a
somebody else.
beast.
You know?
It's like a beast.
Well, I feel like Prince literally changed his name. Right? The man, prolific, wrote in multiple genres, writing music, singing music. He's arguably one of the best.
Oh, he's amazing. He's
Right?
one of the most talented people ever. Yeah.
In the musician
Yeah, yeah.
category. Could not get out of a contract. Could not, no matter how many lawyers he had, could not get out of a contract.
Yeah.
They got their game locked down.
And then I remember just watching those rap movies about why these guys are from the street having a life that is very, very difficult. They have nothing to lose. And you're stealing the money they finally have.
Right.
You picked the wrong dudes
Yeah.
to be doing this
Yeah.
with. You're
Yeah.
used to doing it with
Right.
Elvis and
Right.
these types of people.
Right.
Oh, that's I'm just happy to be
So
singing.
I do want to hear, how did when you said, signing with them you said that was the beginning of the end, and you had just alluded to it. Will you expand on that?
Sure. So,
So after the deal, we were out, not Colorado, but we were.
on
is
the
it
Sunset we were-
Texas?
Oh, Texas. Yeah. So, yeah, we had played South by Southwest, and then we had done this showcase at the Whiskey in Los Angeles, and we had label interest, and Roadrunner was the label we wanted to sign to. They had all these metal bands, they had major label budgets and distribution, but they sort of still held on to their underground roots a little bit, because they had just come out with Slipknot, and Slipknot was like the biggest thing since sliced bread in the metal community. They're still the biggest band out there now, but they had earlier on had put out bands like Fear Factory and Machine Head and Sepultura, and
I love all these bands.
Brujeria, and like all these just really great metal bands, and that sort of was their history. And then somehow Nickelback snuck in there and became huge. I don't know how that happened. They just got lucky with that one, but
I'm not a Nickelback fan.
I am not. I'm also not. I respect their songwriting ability, because their songs are catchy as
Yes.
everything, but I still don't like them. It's not that I don't like them. I just don't care. Something about them.
I just don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Yes. That's it. Yes.
Good for you. Go sing it over there.
Yep.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Every song sounds the same to me. That's the problem I have with it. But
And a little whiny. Just a teeny tiny,
Yeah.
tiny whiny.
yeah.
Tiny whiny.
Well, I don't want to judge anyone else's music, but I'll say it wasn't my cup of tea. I'll
Yes,
put it
yes.
that way. But so Roadrunner was the one we had focused on, and they were serious about signing us, but the guy wanted too much. He wouldn't let us out, and so they walked. They ended up signing. I don't want to say where the band is, but it was going to be us or this other band, and this other band went on to have like 2 or 3 gold records on Roadrunner, and they're huge. And you know, we were friends with this band. They were also from the Boston area, really big band. Anyone who knows metal will know who I'm talking about, but I just don't want to say their name on the air. It was going to be us or them, and it ended up being them because we couldn't get out of our deal. And so I immediately was like, you know, this, I don't want to do another record with this label, but I was ready to do it. But then the band and I got into a disagreement because they didn't they didn't think the songs were heavy enough. They wanted them to be, you know, less melodic, more, you know, death metal sounding, and like, you know, I just didn't see it that way. And eventually I took a long reflective look at where is this going to go. I was, I think, 25, 26 at the time.
Had you met your wife yet?
No, my wife would never have talked to me when I was in this band.
Wait,
she does not.
Did you have long hair?
I did not have long hair. Actually, a couple of guys in the band did, but I didn't. So, ironically, I ended up quitting the band, and you know, we did a bunch of like last shows. Like we paid CBGBs. We did a bunch of shows at CBGBs because it's so small, it would sell out. And then my last show with the band was at the New England Metal Fest in 2003. And I'd already been sort of out of the band for like 5-6 months, and they had already found my replacement at that time. And you know, they did a couple things after I left, but it just
the momentum kind of
changes.
changes.
They put out 2 albums after I left, and I was a little annoyed because they used some of my music on some of them, which was annoying. Ironically, they started writing songs which were more in the vein of what I wanted to do, which also was annoing.
Right. Like you couldn't have just come to this conclusion when I told you had to be difficult.
Yeah. So, and we've laughed about this later now. Like I went through a period, I didn't talk to them for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Like only recently there's been like talk about us maybe doing a couple of like one-off reunion shows here and there. Nothing's come of it yet, but we're on a text chain. We actually started talking for the first time in 20 years. I don't know if it'll happen, but maybe. So, at any rate, I just decided I have to figure out what I'm going to do beyond this because I don't see this being a career now. And so that's when I decided to like finally get a job. And I could have started another band. I could have done all this, but I was so burnt out. I put so much into this first go around. I just didn't feel like I could do it again if it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
And so I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, I still play music and stuff, but I just never was in a band again.
What instruments do you play?
I play guitar. Obviously, I sing. I can play bass. I can play drums a little bit. I can play piano a little bit. But guitar was always my main instrument. And the irony is I was taught by a jazz player, so I like playing jazz. I don't even like playing metal on guitar. I like playing jazz. I love jazz and blues and stuff like that. So I much prefer to play jazz on guitar. And I like listening to jazz too, but I'll listen to probably more metal than jazz. Jazz is more interesting as a musician, you know, to play.
So how did you guys reconnect?
So one of our guitar players started a new band with a singer of some other band that used to be fairly big. They got a show opening up for this band called Kill Switch Engage at Hampton Ballroom Casino, and he's like, "Hey, you guys want to get together?" He sent us this text message out of the blue, and I was on it, and I was a little surprised I was on it because I hadn't talked to any of these guys. But I said, "You know what? Yeah, all right, let's do this." And our bass player had a house on Salisbury, like a little condo thing on Salisbury Beach. So we all got together, drank way too much beer at this beach place, and then went to the show to support the guitar player. And you know, it was like we just kind of let all the
past
stuff go.
Yeah.
You know? Like at least it felt like that to me. I was nervous about it because I was the odd man out, kind of, and nothing bad came up. No one brought anything. It was like we just hung out and partied and had fun, and we sort of been slowly talking about maybe doing something. But every time something happens, life gets in the way. And, you know,
yeah.
Like our guitar player, one of them lives in New York City now. One lives in Connecticut. One lives in Massachusetts. So we're sort of in the same neighborhood, but just far enough where it's not easy to get together.
Right.
And you're a husband and a dad, and you take care of family, and so you have family obligations now.
Yep.
You've got the smoker that you're just knee deep into smoking meats. I'm always seeing it on the internet, so you're very busy. but that would be really interesting. I think that would be really fun.
Yeah, it'll probably happen at some point.
You got to let us know.
Yeah, you
so
gotta
we
let us
can
know.
come to the show.
Yeah,
Come to the
I'll
show
let
and
you guys
promote
know.
it here.
I don't think you can. You probably can't play any clips online
No.
though, because it'll. I curse like a truck driver on stage. Yeah, at least I used to.
Well, I do too in real life.
Yeah, we do in real
Yeah.
life. It's just not on
You
here.
might need the beep button a lot, but I will let you guys know if it happens. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
how
that is so
cool is
awesome.
that? How cool is that?
So what are some of your? Oh, go ahead. What were you
No,
gonna
I was going to say. So when was the end of the band?
So technically speaking, the band never ended. It just kind of fizzled out. Like they found a replacement singer for me. I didn't really know the guy very well. I thought he had a great voice. He unfortunately passed away unexpectedly a couple of years ago.
Wow.
So I guess that was the real official end date. They had been working on an album. You remember the Chinese Democracy album from GNR? It took them like 20 years to put out. They had like something like that going on where like they had this whole album and it's still never come out. It's been like 15 plus years. And they got dropped by the record label and they stopped playing shows. So they kind of just fizzled out and there wasn't an official like breakup.
Just kind of dissolves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask a question because the publishing industry is a lot like the music industry, right?
Yep.
The publishing industry only makes money on like 10% of their books or 12% of the books. The rest, every time they produce a book, they actually lose money. So they're always taking money from Stephen King's best-selling books or Gillian Flynn or
Sure.
right, and they're Harlan Coben, and they're putting out all the other works that are not making them money. And again, it's the same thing. They give you an advance. They'll give you some royalties, but you can't make any royalty until you do these advance. But they also control how many they'll print or when they'll ship. They also buy back all your. So there's so much similar stuff, and that's why I went with a self-publishing route. I said by the time I have other jobs that take up a massive amount of time. By the time I get the creative project of the book out, I then have to try to sell it to an agent. Like I have to do all the stuff.
Right.
Well, I have a business mind. I'll market it and I'll do what I can do with it.
Sure.
Now that you all have a life outside of that, you're very good with numbers. You're very good with contracts. Like just even in our real estate business, do you have any idea to, if we do something, we should push it out?
Well, I don't think that we'll ever create new music. We might do shows,
Yeah.
but yes, I mean, I've got 20 years now experience that I didn't have, or 25 years experience that I didn't have. I've lived life. So yeah, I mean, I there are a lot of things that I would have done differently knowing what I know now if I could go back.
Yeah, but no, but that's also a different time period. Is it like
Yes.
that was perfect for that? But would you ever consider like doing it under your own label and doing something new?
You mean now?
Yeah, because you kind of understand the business side of it. You kind of understand.
Well, as long as all of the other members understood that this was going to be a money losing proposition, not a money making, I would be purely doing it for, satisfaction personally, and not to make any money, because you can't make money if you don't tour. That's just a fact. A fact of musician life nowadays.
and that's why you're like, why is Aerosmith going on another tour? Why is Cher going on another tour?
It's
She needs to make money. She's
So
got bills
how
to
many
pay.
days were you guys on the road when you're touring? Like,
when we were going full time, I mean, 200 to 250 probably. I mean, we played a lot of tour. We were out for months, and then we'd come back, be out for 2 months, be back for a week, go out for more, and then there's like, festivals that you go to, which you never make money on unless you sell a ton of merch, because you're literally having to fly to the festival, and they're not paying for you to fly. So like, you have to fly, rent gear, and there's all these upfront costs, and you're not getting paid very much. So if you don't sell a ton of merchandise, you had a lot of fun, but you're not making any money. So if you don't tour, you're never going to make any money. That's just how it is. Now, some bands are marketable, like pop acts. You mentioned publishing. There's publishing deals also for music, where you get upfront advances based on how marketable they think your music is. Like for instance, we had a song in a Volkswagen commercial, way back. We had a song on Ultimate Fighting Championship, licensed one of our songs for their PlayStation game. We had a couple songs in movie soundtracks. So we made some
Yeah.
other
Residual,
sources,
like, yeah.
residual royalties from stuff like that. But it wasn't like
You're not making a living off of
Yeah.
it. You're not feeding your
I do think
family.
It's not like
yeah.
Nike picking you up.
no.
It's not. It's not.
No, but publishing royalties is where you can make another good slug of income if they're really pushing you hard and marketing you. But touring, nothing will ever trump touring because you control most of the incoming revenue.
Yeah.
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 So what is it? What was it like being on the road, just day after day after day? And
Everyone focuses on the show, and that's like 4% of the
Right.
entire experience. It's the most important 4%, but it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time you're sitting on a van or a bus and you're staring out the window, or you're reading, or we didn't have internet back then, so we actually had a PlayStation in the van with a TV. Like, we were just doing anything to pass the time.
Yeah.
If you weren't the one driving, and then eventually you get a bus and you have a driver, so it's more comfortable, but you're still bored.
you're still in
you
a
know?
vehicle.
Like, nowadays it's probably a little bit better because you've got the internet, you've got phones, you've got all this stuff. We didn't have any of that stuff. We had to actually entertain ourselves, which is where all these shenanigans came in.
Yes.
Like we would just mess with each other
Yeah.
constantly. Like,
We were bored.
yeah, like
This is going to take up 20 minutes when he can't find
Yeah.
his shoes.
Like
it's going to
some-
take a good 20 minutes.
Yeah, like one time we were in Texas, and this is the grossest story ever. But we were in Texas, and someone was making a sandwich with cold cut meat in the back, and it was sticking up the whole place. And someone gave the guy a bunch of flack about it. He started throwing pieces of ham at us. Like you turn around, you get a piece of ham slaps you in the cheek.
So
like
face.
like it was
And
like
I can't wash this off.
no, it's
Stuck
like
to your
it's like who thinks they're gonna get in a ham fight on the highway in Texas in August? Like, it's just not something. That's not something that would ever happen except on tour.
Right.
So those that memories are the thing that you bring with you as you age, right? It's not things, it's memories. So I made a lot of good memories doing it. I wouldn't trade it in, even though it wasn't lucrative. It was a great life experience.
Yeah. And
Gosh, what a great chapter, though. Like,
Yeah.
So what do you do now for work?
I work in investment management. So, I gave up my dream of being a musician to pursue my real dream of selling mutual funds and investment
supporting my
portfolios.
family so
Yeah.
they have a great life and everyone has a good life.
Yes, yeah.
And
so,
we have the nice meat for the smokers.
Yeah.
Right.
My family's
Yeah.
taken care of.
But how cool is that? Just to have, you never know what you're going to do in life, and I think that's what's beautiful. Is like, wow, yeah, oh yeah, I used to be. How many times do you tell your clients that? Oh, you used to be a lead singer.
It does come up from time to time. I've had a couple clients actually recognize me, which is kind of awkward, interesting and awkward sometimes. But
Yeah.
I look way different now than I did back then, obviously, because this is 25 years ago. But yeah, I mean, it's a good icebreaker.
Yeah.
So it comes up from time
I
to time.
forget how it came up for us. But
I
I was like,
honestly
how
don't
did
know.
I not know this?
I don't
You
think
should lead with this. I want to be led
Yeah, I don't
with
think
this.
you knew about this for like probably the first couple of years
Yes,
that we knew
for
each other.
years, because then I'm like, we need to put him on the radio because I can't believe this is happening and I know nothing about it.
It's just not something that comes up unless
Yeah.
there's a reason for it to come up,
Yeah.
But did I answer your question?
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. So does your wife listen to your music?
Oh, she hates it. 100% hates it. We have my wife and I we're the epitome of opposites attracting. Like, she would never have dated me when I was a musician. She does not like this kind of music at all. We have completely different tastes in music. She's winning the war of influencing our children. Unfortunately, when they were younger, they were all into metal, and I was like, yes, this is amazing. We're gonna have two little metalhead kids. And now they listen to like all this like electronic garbage which I can't stand.
Oh, I know.
Like-
I can't get behind that.
And my wife is sort of like industrial type music, like from
Yeah.
Germany, and I'm like, what? Where do you even
German
get this?
techno.
Yeah, like-
Swedish techno, German
My wife
techno.
likes that stuff. I don't know. She likes a lot of stuff, but none of the stuff I like.
Pablo Francisco does a joke about the techno, like, is this the same song? We've been dancing for 45 minutes. I think it's been the same song.
I will say both kids are very talented musicians, though, and they've started to make their own beats. Even though I'm not into this stuff, I can recognize
Yeah.
talent, and they're both very good at it. So there might be a future for them. in
Wow,
this.
how cool is that?
we'll see. I hopefully they can make some money at it because I don't want them to. I want them
Right.
to be living in my basement for the next 25 years.
I'm gonna have to keep selling mutual funds until you were you were out of your band stage. Or you can start a record label, so you'll have a mutual fund, you'll have your investments, you'll have your real estate, and you'll have your
diversify a little bit.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, that's why I started
portfolio.
doing the real estate, because if this whole music thing doesn't work out for them, they can inherit this from me when I'm gone, and hopefully not, be living, outside across from Martha's out there.
Right.
Like,
I don't want my children riding a bike yelling at service workers up and down
Exactly.
the street on Main Street. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm exhausted.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that's fantastic. It's a great story. And like I said, I can't believe I didn't know it way sooner. Like, I feel like we should lead with that. That's so cool. And it must have been, I'm assuming we were talking about music.
Probably.
And that came out. And then I'm like, I am not a metal head, but I like angry music.
Yeah.
And, we have this whole thing. We only have a minute left. But what is your take on AC/DC?
I love AC/DC.
Okay.
One of my favorite bands ever. Their live album is one of the best albums I've ever owned.
I want new bands up at Bike Week in Laconia. I'm sick of just nothing but AC/DC cover bands. If we could bring Diecast up there and do something at Laconia so that I can have something else to enjoy, because I'm
Bike Week.
AC/DC.
We'll see what we can do.
Thank you, Colin, for
Thank you.
joining us. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
It's
Yes,
a
thank
fantastic
you very
conversation.
much.
You were listening to Lisa and Robin on the mic on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can always watch, stream, and listen on YouTube as well as WSMN.live. Go out, have a great week. We will see you next Thursday.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen.